I just wanted to share a speech that I gave this semester. I'm giving it in my car at school on my break, but I wanted to share it anyhow. Approximately 410,000 females between the ages of 15 and 19 became mothers in 2009. This is according to the Statistical Abstract of the United States 2012 Social Statistics. There are probably other circumstances that affect this as well, besides just or other than what I'm talking about. It's very likely that entertainment such as magazines play a big part in young people becoming sexually active. We all have children in our lives, and some of us are parents, aunts, uncles, and some of us hope to have children someday. Regardless, everyone knows a child. And I would hope that everyone would want what is best for the children in their lives and what would be good for them, and want to protect them and keep them safe and, out of harm. So I've done research, and I agree with other people on magazines like Cosmopolitan needing to be placed in non-transparent bags, or at least taken out of the checkout lines at grocery stores. And I think we as society, we put things out there and we don't really think about it. And there are parental blockers for your television and your internet and things like that, but what about magazines? They're just openly out there and available for children, and sometimes we buy them for them without really even thinking about the consequences of what we're doing. And we do it we have the blockers on things because there are negative influences, and you're trying to protect children from the negative influences. So one way we can protect them is to get magazines that contain sexual content into non-transparent plastic bags and make them so that only people over 18 can buy them. When young people are allowed to see sexually explicit or material that's sexually explicit or sexual in nature, it tends to lead young people to acting in ways that are not appropriate for their age group. Young people being able to access non-age appropriate material is the main cause for this. There are things that can be done by contacting the right people. There are all kinds of things coming at young people today, and as a society, we should be doing what we can to protect these young people. The problem comes when we don't do anything to protect them. The entertainment industry a lot of times ends up putting different things that may or may not be intentionally targeted to younger people. The issue comes when these products are damaging to young people and they're accessible to people who are not old enough to be reading or looking at them. In an interview by Elizabeth M. Morgan for the Journal of Sex Research, 50% of the 456 female interviewees have at some point in time viewed sexually explicit material, later worded as SEM. In her article, Morgan said SEM was broadly defined as media portraying images of exposed genitals and or depictions of sexual behaviors that are intended to increase sexual arousal. So according to my sources, and the ideas and topics that are covered in magazines such as Cosmopolitan are of a sexual nature. They are sexually explicit. They may not be showing things that are in Playboy, but the concepts, the ideas, they're just the same. It doesn't matter if there's actual nudity. It's suggestive nudity, and the language and the words in it are just as bad and just as detrimental to children if they're reading them, or young people in general, teenagers, little kids even. Besides the material being inappropriate, there's also a problem with the way they're being marketed. The covers of these magazines have become crafty. You might say they're using actresses who are younger and appeal to a younger demographic. In the last couple of months, they have had a magazine with Selena Gomez on the cover, as well as Dakota Fanning. In an article in Cosmopolitan written by Jonah Weiner, they even went as far as having an image of the then 17-year-old Fanning with the caption, 2 years ago this would have been cute, now it's hot. I personally find this creepy, seeing as though it is talking about the bunny ears she's wearing. She would have been 15 2 years ago. Seeing these kinds of things makes it obvious who they're trying to get to read the magazines. They're more or less marketed to the younger crowd. And even if they aren't, having someone so young, I think, is just detrimental. You see what the problem is. Magazines such as Cosmopolitan are marketing to younger teens, or young people in general. They're putting out information that should be for adults only. And honestly, some of it probably even shouldn't be for adults, but that's for a different day. But the children are getting a hold of it, and the cause for this, or there are many causes for this. The two main causes I can see for this problem are poor marketing or lack of parental involvement. First off, I think that there might be poor marketing. Though it may not be poor marketing, it may be that it's good marketing, just bad judgment, which I actually think is the case. I don't think that they are not thinking about it. I think that they are thinking about it, but they aren't thinking clearly or well, I guess would be the right wording. They're just not using their brains. If they're not intentionally trying to get the younger crowd, this is poor marketing on their part. How many adults do you know who would really care about Selena Gomez? I mean, I'm 22, and I'm at that age that, sure, I think she's a good singer, and I've watched her show because I babysat, and I was a nanny, but it's not something I care about. I don't watch the Disney Channel anymore. In fact, if this is their attempt, though, they're using poor judgment. Trying to market an adult magazine to young girls is not only in poor taste, but it's really careless on their part, because they're giving these girls ideas that they should be doing things that they are not age appropriate. They're giving 100 sex tips next to a picture of Selena Gomez is not age appropriate. There's absolutely no reason that little girls need to be looking at this. And I actually encountered with that Selena Gomez magazine, that situation, a little girl, she's probably between 8 and 10. She was looking at the magazine and she told her mom that she needed it. And I was trying to figure out why exactly a little girl would need that magazine, besides the fact that Selena Gomez was on the cover. But the little girl was old enough to be able to read, so she really doesn't need to be given sex tips. There's no reason for it. There's absolutely no reason to have somebody who is going to attract young children being on the cover of a magazine that is teaching people how to have sex or how to please or pleasure or whatever, their boyfriend or a man in general. There's just no reason for it. According to Nicole of Project Inspired, which is who I'm recording this for actually, but she said if Cosmo is for adults not minors, then it should be sold only to adults. I understand they have the right to free speech and to print what they want. However, it is a crime to market graphic sex tips to underage kids. The other, and I completely agree with that statement, and it backs up my reasoning that these magazines, if they are being marketed to children, it's not okay. The other reason I can see maybe possibly being a reason that this is becoming such an issue is a lack of parental involvement. I know whenever I was a kid, my parents knew what I was doing. Granted, at a point in time in my life, my mom subscribed to Cosmopolitan and I looked at it. But whenever I was a child, I had no desire to read any of the sex tips or any dating tips or anything in it. The reason I looked at it was I like clothes. I like shoes. I like makeup. So I was looking at it for that reason. There was only those reasonings behind me looking at it, not because I had any desire to read any of that other stuff. I never actually did. I just would flip through it and look at the pretty pictures of makeup and clothes and stuff. But kids today are not like I was whenever I was a kid. There's a good chance that parents are not paying attention to what their kids are doing. They may be preoccupied in line at the store, or a child might be looking at the magazine when they're not at home. There are things that can be done to help this, especially in line at the store. Besides putting it in bags, if stores weren't willing to put it in bags, they could just take the magazine off the shelves that are by the counters, where people could be preoccupied not paying attention to their kids who are looking at them, and put them in places that are higher up and not as easily accessible to children. Now you know what the problem is. and you know what some of the causes are, but some solutions and things you can do at home, and ways you can get involved. There are a lot of things you can do to make sure you're protecting your children, or the children in your life. Some are simple and some take a little bit of work. Being involved at home is like the number one way. I mean, be sure what your kids are looking at. Be sure what you're letting your kids feed their mind with. I know a lot of my friends, whenever I was younger, weren't allowed to watch MTV. They had, they could only watch certain channels and things like that, and we do that for our kids, but what about our reading material? So being involved at home is a free, easy way. You should be being involved with your children anyhow. You can start by telling your child, that this stuff isn't appropriate and it's not what they need to be looking into. You can also just make sure that your kids understand, that you're there to talk to them about stuff, so that they're not looking to these magazines for sex ed in a way, I guess. A larger scale way to get involved is you can make a few phone calls, send a few letters, call your congressman, things like that, call the FCC, email them, tell them that you think that the magazines should be placed in bags or made so that they're only accessible to adults. You can also go to Nicole's website at projectinspired.com, and then on her site she has a link to her petition. So now that you know what the problem is and some solutions, you should act on it. Magazines such as Cosmopolitan are being magazines such as Cosmopolitan are marketing sexually explicit material to a younger crowd. By the poor judgment of the companies or the lack of parental involvement, young people are being exposed to these materials. But there are things that we can do about it. Being more involved and contacting the right people are just a couple of these. You may be sitting here thinking that you're an adult and you don't have any children, but everyone knows a child or knows someone who has a child, and the things that are in these magazines send the wrong kind of messages to kids. And so if you're asking yourself what you can do, or if you have a child, keep an eye on them. And you can always go to projectinspired.com and click on the link on the side where she has her link up to her petition and sign it, because every signature helps and every little bit you do goes a long way. So that's it. Thank you.